Hey
So,
Stefan, Happy New Year.
hey
Good to see you, my
Puria,
man.
Happy New Year. How are you doing?
Great, great. Good to see you. Always great to see you. Was a smooth start into the year. How was it for you?
I mean, we talked about it in private in a couple of months ago that we both are not drinking alcohol. So for me, it was more or less like a calm slide into the new year. So we just spent time with the family, enjoyed the fireworks, and that's it. How was it for you?
Cool, cool. Yeah, similar. Just a smooth transition. And in the morning, I could go to the gym yesterday as well. So yeah, pumped up and also looking forward. And with that, also, folks, welcome to our podcast. With me, the amazing Stefan. He's a AWS solution architect. I'm myself as well, an AWS solution architect. We're super excited to kick off this podcast with you and for you, and looking forward to stay in touch with you. And our goal is to bring you the latest AI and cloud news and share them with you in depth. Yeah, over to you, Stefan.
Yeah, thanks, Puria. So then I would say let's directly jump in the topic for today. So as Puria said, the goal of this podcast is to share news across the cloud industry. But the topic for today is from more work related from the latest news from reInvent that took place in the beginning of December. So the biggest tech event from AWS that takes place every year in Las Vegas. Puria, maybe the first question to you, like, what is your biggest takeaway from reInvent?
Yeah, good question. So when I think about reInvent, I would say especially the Nova Forge was a big surprise. So what AWS basically did is they opened up the weights to their latest model they generated and trained for several months. And you can now basically take this model in several stages and just continue to train it for your own domain. So this was a huge and bold step, I would say. Which one was it for you?
So for me, it was, I would say, the AI factories, because AI factories go into the same direction of AWS's sovereign cloud strategy, as they are launching also the European sovereign cloud in the beginning of January. I think that the AI factories are a perfect fit to this because it also aims for providing more data sovereignty controls for customers when they want to train AI models in the future. So maybe also the question to our community. So maybe share what your biggest takeaway from reInvent is, or also if you already got the time to have a look into the latest news, or whether this is completely new and you want to use this podcast for getting the news and getting more insights into it. So then I would say let's jump directly in. And Puria, what is the first news that you want to share here?
Yeah, the first topic I want to present to you today is Kiro Powers. So Amazon Kiro is the AI IDE by AWS where you can use a companion to create code with AI. And one of special things about it is spec-driven development. So you first really focus on communicating with the AI. What is my goal? What do I want to define in terms of code changes? And then it creates the plan and then creates the code task and then executes on them. And now the new thing with Powers is you can actually not only integrate MCP servers, but you integrate a package. So think of it as a box, and then inside this box you can put MCP, you can put in steering docs and hooks. So these are the three ingredients, and then with that you can define a Kiro power. And this now helps you to overcome the problem of, for example, context window overload. Because what happens is if you import MCP tools and activate them, they have a lot of tools, and these tools have descriptions of the input, the output, and this takes a lot of tokens. So this can actually overfill your token window quite fast. And with Kiro Powers, you can solve that because it can automatically decide what to use during your live session with the chatbot. And it has things like the steering docs helping to understand the tools better, or the hooks to automate some steps. So it's really powerful, and it comes out of the box for many integrations with, for example, Dynatrace. We have Figma, Netlify, Postman, and so on. So this really helps you also to import their powers very easily. So then you benefit of calling also these MCP servers the right way and to automate your tasks easier. And you can also create your own powers. So you have also the customization experience. You can actually create your powers and also share it with the community.
Yeah, just thing that I think is worth mentioning is how easy it is to build a power inside Kiro. And also for the listeners who are not familiar with Kiro, Kiro is the IDE from AWS and it is now GA since the reInvent. So I think it was announced in the beginning of the year, like March or April, and it is now GA for every customer out there. Also, like it's open source and people can download it, and it's like very similar to the products out there, like like Windsurf or Cursor. And regarding to Kiro Powers, I think it's very easy to set it up. It's just a small metadata file that you have to load up into Kiro. But maybe it's also in the future we can show a demo of it, how it works, and have a very small session about this, because I think it's very powerful to connect it inside Kiro.
We should definitely do that. So we can also upload this in our podcast or on a YouTube channel. So we will also figure out and experiment different formats for you to share that. Thanks for the call out. Also that it's GA now. And by the way, you can also try it out for free. So yeah, just try it out and also make sure you understand this pattern now with Kiro Powers, because this is something which will be, especially in 26, kind of an industry standard. So the sooner you start working with it, the more advanced you are. The second one is AWS Transform Custom. So AWS Transform is like more than 1 year old, and it's a service that actually helps you to use AI, better to say agentic AI, for transformation tasks. For example, modernizing your stack. Think of migrating from Java 8 to 17, or think of Node.js runtime upgrades, Python runtime upgrades, or even migrating your chipset from x86 to Graviton. So these things are already available, and there are pre-built transformations for that in AWS Transform, and you can use AI to migrate your projects. But now what came in through reInvent is custom transformations. So now you can actually define your project scope in natural language, and then AWS Transform Custom goes ahead, creates the plan, and can execute even over days with a memory that is consistent and operate and finalize this task view. And this is really powerful, because with that, you can now tackle, for example, technical debt projects, which are laying around for years because you don't have currently the IT resources to tackle that because you have more important priorities. Now you can actually use AI to overcome that, and with less cost, actually do these migration and modernization tasks with the help of AWS Transform Custom. There are also already customer references. For example, there is Air Canada or Thomson Reuters who have used AWS Transform. And for example, Air Canada could save up to 80% of cost for their migration project. Or for example, Thomson Reuters had 30% of cost cut. And they could, for example, reduce their technical debt by up to 50%. So this is something which is not only meaningful on the paper or in theory, but something that big companies are also using and executing on. And it's helping them with their projects.
I think this tackles one of the most important or chances for AI where it can support, and this is how you can modernize monolithic applications that are either on-premise or already in the cloud. But I think AWS tackles here a very important chance for AI to modernize these monolithic applications towards like more microservice or cloud native approach. We will see how that goes with AWS Transform. But let's see. I haven't tried it out so far, but I will give it a chance in the next month.
Yeah, great. We are looking forward to your story, Stefan. So when you also try it out hands-on, and it's very promising. Yeah, maybe from my side, a few more points. I have as well for today Amazon Quick Suite. There was also a slightly new addition to it. So first off, Quick Suite is now GA. It was launched already pre-reInvent, so in October 25. It's the new agentic AI solution for business users. So this actually allows everyone to create multi-agentic solutions just with few clicks, just with natural language. And then you can go ahead to analyze your data. It can be unstructured data. It can also be structured tabular data, even integrate your data from your data warehouses, connect to MCP servers, connect to APIs, create workflow automations, create deep research automated tasks. And with that, you can basically do all sorts of things in terms of generative information retrieval, generative business intelligence dashboard creation, automation of business tasks, and even integrate like your corporate knowledge into a big knowledge base inside Quick Suite. It has different components. So Quick Sight is for the business intelligence integration. Quick Research is for the deep analysis part. You have Quick Flows and Quick Automate for business processes automation. And then you have Quick Index, which is like the big brain where you ingest all your corporate knowledge into it. It is also not capsulated from the outer world. It has integrations with many services like Salesforce, Zendesk, Jira, and so on. And you can also easily plug in MCP servers into it. Now, what changed during reInvent, especially the integration between quick research and quick flows. So now you can create inside your business processes also steps which do the deep research for you. And so think of before, for example, creating documents you want to share with others, first run the deep research step and then use the flow to create the document and then as well to share it and distribute it throughout your team in an automated process. So this also helps you to create more powerful workflows with it. Yeah, and with that, this is like my intro with the 3 starting announcements from reInvent. And with that, over to you, Stefan.
So my first news that I want to share is that AWS announced a generational leap from the Amazon Nova family. So now we have the Amazon Nova 2 model family. And the model family consists of 4 different models, like a light model, a pro model, the omni model, and the speech-to-speech model. And we will come to this in a second, how they differ. I think the main message from AWS is now that they want to offer a more cost-effective way for using these models, and while still having like a competitive performance offering. And these models offer or catched up with some of the features that are already available by other models out there at the market. Like, for example, you now have this extended reasoning feature. That means that all models now offer an adjustable thinking depth with step-by-step reasoning and task decomposition. It gives this capability gives developers more control over how we want to balance the accuracy, but also the speed of the model response. The feature isn't unique out there. I mean, models like GPT-5 or Gemini 3 already have this extended reasoning in place. But I think what is still worth mentioning is that the Nova 2 models now, with this extended reasoning capability, offer it now at a much lower price and also in a more granular fashion, where you have 3 different categories where you can decide how much of you want to balance the speed and the accuracy from low, medium to high. Whereas other models like GPT do it in 2 variants, like in instant and thinking mode, and it automatically decides when to use which mode. And for Gemini 3, for example, it also launched its deep thinking mode, and the users have then to manually opt into this reasoning mode. Let's have a look into the models itself. So I said that the first, and this is like the workhorse that you can use, is the Nova 2 Lite model. So it's the smallest of the 4 models, and it outperforms models like Haiku 4.5 or the GPT-5 Mini and also Gemini Flash on many benchmarks out there. So this is quite impressive. And it has a 1 million token context window, what is also quite impressive compared to the other models. When it comes to pricing, and this relates to all of the 4 models, Nova sits in between GPT and Gemini. So Nova 2 Lite costs around 30 cents per million input tokens and $2.5 per million output tokens. So this is, as a summary, 40% cheaper on input than Gemini 3 Flash, for example, on input, and 70% cheaper on the output. But it sits in between these models because GPT-5 Mini is still cheaper but has a low context window. The other models are the Nova 2 Pro model. So this model is like the most capable of these 4 models. And the other ones are Nova 2 Sonic, what is a speech-to-speech model and supports 7 different languages. And it regarding, and I think this is the most important thing for customers to use this model, is in terms of the latency. Nova 2 Sonic offers you, this AWS claims that it offers under 700 millisecond latency. What is quite impressive because the other models are slightly above, between 800 to a second, 800 milliseconds to a second. Google is not very precise on this, but GPT released these models for this. And the last model is the Omni model. And this is like the broadest capability model. So here, this model can handle like text, images, video, and speech, and also both as input and output.
Yeah, the Lite model is very promising in terms of speed and text, because like until now, I really like to use the Claude Haiku 4.5. And now that this one is even cheaper than it and even slightly better performance, I think this is really promising. And also the Nova 2 Sonic, I could already try out hands-on. and it's really fast. So like even when you do this real-time conversation, it's already responding like so quickly. Every time you're like super surprised how snappy it is as a human. So yeah, I'm also really excited like what others are going to build with it as a foundational layer.
And the next feature that I want to mention is Nova Forge. So Nova Forge is an AWS managed environment for customers to creating custom models inside Amazon Bedrock. So it's a new service and it gives customers access to certain checkpoints during mid-training and post-training. And it just an easier way for customers to train models either from scratch or during the training phase. And there are a couple of problems that are solved by this solution, because on the one side, generic models that you use don't understand like specialized domains like in healthcare or manufacturing or engineering. And with prompt engineering, you can't inject this missing knowledge. And if you use a RAG, for example, you still have limitations when it comes to embedding the specialized knowledge into the model's core understanding. So we saw that these models here and then forget the knowledge that you inject into them. Traditional approaches like reinforcement learning or supervised learning also have like the problem with forgetting core capabilities and also a lack of structural control over when and how knowledge is introduced during the training phase. So, and Nova Forge is now like an easy way for you to train a model during certain phases of the training phase. So before that, customers would have either would have needed like people who are very skilled in training models, and secondly also have very or can handle like the costs that come with training a model. And Nova Forge is now like the specialized tool. It is built on top of SageMaker AI, so it is not replacing SageMaker, but it is a tool inside the SageMaker AI toolbox that you can now use to train models.
So maybe also like we can highlight the differences between Forge and Bedrock. So you can also do supervised fine-tuning and reinforcement learning in Amazon Bedrock. But Nova Forge has now much more customization features. So for example, with reinforcement learning, now it offers you custom reinforcement learning reward functions, which can be in your own environment. Or when it comes to the supervised fine-tuning, you can now use Amazon's own data, which was used to train the Nova models, combine it with your own data, and this will help you to increase the accuracy. Or you can even now easily integrate third-party data. And these are like the additional capabilities that Nova Forge brings over like the, let's say, simpler approaches you can take with Amazon Bedrock. So this is like more for the pros who understand what they want to do for the training process, but still want to do as less operational overhead as needed. So then you think of using Nova Forge for that. Next one is Nova Act. So this kind of falls into these Nova family updates. And Nova Act is a bit different because first off, it's a model just fine-tuned for running actions in the browser. So it understands very well the user's display on a pixel base. And then it can understand what would be a next action. So do I need to fill out a form? Do I need to click a button? And it's very precise, and as this model is just tailored for this task, it's very efficient on it. And now this brings you new possibilities. So think of automating your processes where you might not have an API in place. So then you don't need to wait for the APIs to be built. You can just use this Nova Act to let the AI click through your websites and to fill out forms for your users. And you can now combine it, for example, with other tools like think of if you have already heard about agent called browser sessions, where you can create instant browser sessions for your agent, which it can then use to open up the websites. It can be external, internal ones. And then you can use the Nova Act actually as this handling layer where it clicks through your browsers for you. So it's a very powerful model. And it also opens up now this space of testing your UI just with the Nova Act model. So you don't even need now systems which need to have predefined sequences of where to click which button, because what if a button changes over time by the front-end team? Now the whole testing workflow would break, but now with tools like Nova Act, you can overcome that easily. The next section is our fast news section. So in the fast news, as like the middle layer of our episode, we always want to give you a rapid overview on multiple announcements at once, but these are the announcements where we won't go deeper and just want to give you like the headlines so that you understand what their main capabilities are. So I will start with the AI and data news. The first one is S3 vector storage. This is the tailored storage option to run your vector embeddings inside AWS with the most cost-effective way. Think of using it for use cases where you don't need sub-millisecond performance, but just second latency performance. So then it's a right fit. The second one is OpenSearch Agentic Search. OpenSearch has now the additional capability to use agentic search functionality within your semantic search solutions, which will help you to improve the accuracy. So now an agent can break down the search into multiple steps and improve to find the right items for your current search query. The next one is SageMaker Data Agent. So this one helps you to create your ETL pipelines directly inside SageMaker, just purely with natural language. So now you don't need to create the Python code yourself. You can just use natural language and it will create for you the ETL pipelines.
Now continuing with the fast news section, the first one that I have is AWS Lambda Managed Instance, so not an AI-related feature that was announced. So now you have the capability or the opportunity to run Lambda functions on EC2-backed infrastructure. And this gives you the serverless simplicity from a Lambda function, but have more predictable performance characteristics for steady workloads that you want to run with Lambda on EC2 instances. And you can select like a wide variety of instance sizes and types for your Lambda function. Second one is now finally we have database savings plans. What is, as most of you know, I think like a new pricing model that applied previously only to EC2 and a couple of other services, but now you can use this for databases, so for your RDS instances and Aurora instances. And the last one that I have is EKS capabilities. So now you have the opportunity to have like a fully managed platform capability that handles the workload orchestration inside your Kubernetes environment, like the cloud resource management and just eliminating the infrastructure maintenance while providing still the reliability of your EKS workloads. So jumping out of the fast news section, we go now in more in the slow mode, because I think the next news are worth talking more about. The first one that I want to mention is Lambda durable functions. So the first feature in our slow mode that is not AI related. So Lambda durable functions is a new Lambda mode that you can enable where you can build your code on. And it gives developers the flexibility or the opportunity to build a multi-step application that automatically checks the progress of your application. You can suspend the execution for up to 1 year during, let's say you have a long running task and then you want to suspend it in between or wait for a response from another application. And it also gives you the ability to recover from a previous failure. And now many customers would say, okay, why can't I just use a step function for this? Because step function is a reliable way of having like a multi-step workflow in place. But the nice thing about the Lambda durable function is that you can now use a Python SDK where you can write your durable functions. And so you don't need the step function state language or the YAML file to configure your multi-step workflow. Everything happens inside your Python code that runs on Lambda, and then you define your steps and your checkpoints. So you still have your 15-minute timeout, but as said, you have now the capability to checkpoint or suspend your Lambda function for up to a year.
Wow, it's a super long time.
It is. So, in terms of costs, don't pay for the waiting time of the time where your durable function waits for a callback or for another response, but you only pay for the execution time and the state storage that you use for your durable function. The next news that I want to share is AI factories. So AI factories, and I mentioned this at the very beginning of our episode, that I think this is a very interesting feature that is launched by AWS. Think of AI factories like AWS Outpost for AI. For the listeners who are not aware, AWS Outpost is a service from AWS, like a physical rack that AWS delivers to customers that they can place inside their own data center to still get like the AWS cloud, but inside your environment. So this is like specialized hardware that AWS delivers and ships out to customers that have like either very strict governance rules that they want to host certain workloads inside their data center, or let's say you want to host a workload inside a region where you don't have an AWS region so far, then it makes sense to maybe think about using AWS Outpost. And AI Factories goes into the same direction, just related to AI. So AWS provides you the whole software stack, the orchestration, the observability for running, training AI models. It provides you the AI chips from NVIDIA and the Trainium chips that are AWS owned. And on the other side, the customer only has to provide like the data center, like the infrastructure, the physical space, the power, and just make sure that it complies with the local regulations. This relates to the sovereign AI strategy or the sovereign cloud strategy in general from AWS, because AWS also announced, I think it was 2 years ago already, in 2023, that AWS announced its European sovereign cloud. And AI Factories goes into the same direction of the ESC, because you now have the ability to use AI Factories inside your own data center. So let's say you're a customer who wants to maintain or reduce the risk of losing digital sovereignty, where you can use AI Factories to train and run their models inside their own data center.
Right, it's not just about the hardware being deployed by AWS in your own DC, but it's also like a managed Bedrock environment. And now for customers who have already the skills to work with Bedrock, this is like a super easy way now to transition into more regions, into their own DCs with this deployed AI Factories. And you can benefit off like leveraging your existing deployment patterns, CI/CD pipelines, and everything built around Bedrock to host your agents, but just to keep it aligned, but also give you the flexibility to now be available in more access points.
So next, let's jump into the platform section for building and hosting AI agents. So AWS offers a couple of services where you can host your agents as of now. So one of it would be to use a Lambda function. So using a Lambda function would mean you build your agent or your AI workload and host the code on a Lambda function. I think it still makes sense to do this because Lambda is pretty strong very good to connect it to other AWS services inside the AWS ecosystem. Imagine you're having an event-driven system and you want to build an AI workflow that connects to an SQS queue or a Kafka cluster, and based on a certain message or event that comes into your system, your agent should perform certain tasks. This is very easy to build on a Lambda function because Lambda function has built-in triggers for these AWS services. Another option would be to use AWS QuickSuite that Puvia mentioned in the beginning. So QuickSuite is a low-code option for building agents on AWS. So more for business users or people who want to build an agent easily and fast and connect it via MCP to different external applications. And another option would be, of course, other compute options that you have. You can still host your agents on an EC2 instance, on containers inside ECS or EKS. And the last option, and this is the latest platform that was announced by AWS, is Bedrock Agent Core. Bedrock Agent Core was announced at the New York Summit in summer last year now, because we have the 1st of January.
Oh yeah,
and
it's already happened.
Exactly. So a long time ago, Bedrock Agent Core was announced. You have also another option, what is Bedrock Agents. This was the first service, I would say, the first managed service for hosting agents. But I don't want to lean towards outside the window, as we say in German, to say that maybe Bedrock agents will not be heavily used in the future. Maybe for POCs, maybe for testing, because it's very easy to set up an agent on Bedrock agents. But I think, and maybe we both agree, like Bedrock Agent Core is like the future for building production grade agents.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no way around it. Yeah.
Exactly. So Bedrock Agent Core, for those of you who are not aware of it, is a managed platform for building and hosting agents. And it offers you a couple of capabilities that are pretty interesting, like Agent Core Gateway for having a gateway in between your agents and your MCP servers towards the outside world, where you have a built-in connectivity to Agent Core Identity, what is like handling the authentication and authorization of your requests and responses. And you have a built-in observability function. So it connects to AWS CloudWatch under the hood. So it logs every trace and every session that an agent has with other tools or with other agents inside CloudWatch. And with Agent Core, you also have a runtime. And inside the runtime, you can host your agents and your MCP servers. And AWS announced that reInvent two new features or two new pillars that are now added to Agent Core. And one is Agent Core Policy. This gives you guardrails for your agents. That means it enforces security and compliance outside the agent's reasoning process. And it is applied by using CEDAR policies, or you can also use natural language for it. So CEDAR is like an open source language for defining permissions as policies. And the Agent Core platform evaluates those policies during runtime in sub-millisecond latency.
Wow. So this doesn't slow down actually your application.
So AWS claims that it doesn't slow, that you don't see a noticeable difference by enabling Agent Core policy. So the next feature that AWS announced was Agent Core Evaluations. So Agent Core Evaluations gives you the ability to enable or control the performance, the correctness, and the safety of your agents. So it gives you a constant feedback loop across the correctness, the safety, the tool decision accuracy, and the goal success rate of your agents or your autonomous systems in general. So the idea is that you now have a runtime evaluation. So you don't need like an offline evaluation of the performance of your agents, but you can constantly track how an agent behaves and whether it works towards a certain goal and whether it achieves it. And then you can, based on this information, you can then decide what has to be changed. Because on the other side, we have, as I said, the Agent Core observability part, but Agent Core observability is just an observability layer. So you can see the data inside it, but retrieving then the performance and checking whether the agent behaves as it should be from a business perspective is still or was still a challenge for customers. And I think Agent Core evaluations will be a powerful cornerstone inside the Agent Core ecosystem to make agents more reliable and trustworthy, because such a trust framework to build for customers to really rely on agents inside production environments is key for building AI workloads in the future.
One comment also on this. I think this is both are like so important to keep your customer trust once you deploy like to production, because think of like the policies. If certain tools are used, even if the permissions allow it, but maybe like in a logic layer, it doesn't make sense to call these tools. It's either unnecessarily slow, it's unnecessarily expensive, or maybe leading to even results that shouldn't be served to this user. But also like with this online evaluation, I think this is so powerful, like to avoid customer churn. Because if the agent is working for 15 minutes together with the user, but at the end the user is like, this wasn't actually what I was intending to do, and now it took my time and it's not the result I wanted, you can avoid that now with it. Or you can even understand in real time, hey, this is going on in my system. And as these are like complex conversations, I think like tools like Agent Core Evaluation help us also like as maintainers of these systems or designers of these systems to have something in place which really helps us to control the quality. So we're already getting to the end, and like the last announcements we want to share with you today are the frontier agents. So this is now a new approach by AWS, where AWS is now serving ready-to-use agents for specific domains. So there are 3 domains. So the first one is Kiro autonomous agents. So these are coding agents which can work standalone over multiple hours and days, and they have a consistent and persistent memory. So which means whatever they do in executing, creating the code, designing software architecture, everything is memorized throughout their work so that the agent doesn't forget what they did, for example, 5 hours ago. So this really helps you to improve the accuracy, and they can even learn throughout the process. So if the agent did something in creating code by using specific libraries or patterns and it didn't work, the agent will know the next time. So this is also how the memory layer is helping. And on top, it can connect to multiple repositories. So you don't need to just define one repository. So if you have a multi-repository setup, this is not a big deal, and you can use the Kiro autonomous agent. Currently, it's in gated preview, so you can register for it, and it's going to be now available publicly in the next months. The second one is the security agent. So this one now really helps you to monitor the security quality of your software layer, but also on the architecture layer. And this one has also a persistent memory. So it can understand your architecture stack. It knows your software stack. And now when you come to it and you have a specific question in terms of, hey, can you continuously monitor our security posture, then it understands everything around it in your domain and can give you the right suggestions. So if you have already used, for example, SAST or DAST tools to evaluate your security posture, this is now an additional layer of flexibility, because what is happening now is you don't get just recommendations compared to CVE benchmarks, but it really understands your full stack, and this reduces the false positives. So with that, you really can focus on changing the parts of your stack which really are in danger. You can also, by the way, do pen test together with the security agent. So this can even be your proactive pen tester of your whole setup. And the last one is the DevOps agent. So think of it as the additional to your team, which can help you now in terms of keeping your stack online. So if at 2 a.m. something breaks, you have a ticket opened, or for example, you have metrics popping up in your observability pipeline, it can now understand what's going on, look into your logs, find out the reason behind it, and maybe fix something in your database or in your compute layer and really act. So this really helps to reduce the stress and increase the time on how fast you can actually resolve the issues popping up. It can also connect. Yeah, Stefan.
Sorry, you can cut this out. No, but I just wanted to mention what I can really recommend is, if you haven't done it so far, there is a YouTube video from the reInvent from a principal engineer, like a day in life of a principal engineer, where he's like talking about how he built the DevOps agent. So the talk is from the reInvent at the beginning of December, and he's talking about his life and how he decided then, or as part of the product team, of course, to build this DevOps agent. So very, very impressive talk. Can highly recommend it to watch it.
Yeah, definitely make sure to check it out. And closing this, also, like, there are a lot of customization features within these agents. And for example, with a DevOps agent, you can define pre-built runbooks for it. So if you already know for specific scenarios how to handle them, you can teach the model under the hood so that it can understand like how to react for you, and you can connect to your environment as well. So if you're using Grafana, Prometheus, or if you're using Dynatrace, Datadog, and so on, you can connect all these systems with your DevOps agent so that it can read the right data and also handle specific tasks and also apply actions for you. All right, it's available in US East 1. Also, currently, it's, by the way, free during the preview. So you can also try this out already in your AWS console.
And with that, we are coming to an end of our episode about the latest news from reInvent. Thanks a lot for watching. If you got feedback for us, share it in the comment section. Also, what are your latest or coolest news from the reInvent? Share it in the comment section. Or if you think we missed something that should have been mentioned here, also feel free to give us the feedback. And thanks a lot. See you next time.
See you in the next one.